the starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Maybe I'm back. Maybe I'm not. But I know this is the first time that intro has actually been right in a very long time. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler. The gentlemen that are in this room will be with you in just a minute. I know many of you are probably wondering what the hell's going on. You've heard that maybe there was going to be an announcement, and we will get to that in just a minute. But first and foremost, I just want to say there's a very loyal crowd that comes with this show, right? And essentially what that's done is something that we probably at Chatterbox have never really had to try to decide on before. We started this company based off the fact of, hey, we like sports, let's go out into the high school sports world and see what we can do. That led into, as Elliot will tell you, iPads. It turned into doing live streams. It figured out on our end that maybe we're better at live streaming than anyone else that we could find doing high school sports. That led to COVID. COVID led to Tom Brenneman. Tom Brenneman led to doing this show. And since we started this show, it's grown to a significant amount of people. There's a lot of people that watch the clips. There's a lot of people that, quite frankly, tune in every single day. And we know who you are. And we very much are very, very, very appreciative of who you are and what you do. Which is why, on our end, it's difficult to make a decision on what we do moving forward in regards to content, and it's why in which, on this show specifically, even though Tom, quite frankly, as we all know, has kind of moved on to do some other things in his life, and that's more than A-OK. By the way, Tom will be back on Monday to do his show, which I guess will probably be appropriate to kind of jump into what's next. So Tom obviously is in a situation in his life where he's decided, he would like to have, we'll call it for what it is, a little more free time, opportunities to go do some things that he would like to do. He's just out of the country for quite some time. He just got back into the country, and he's excited to do his show on Monday. But I'll also admit and say that from a viewing audience standpoint, there has to be some semblance of consistency, and that's something that has lacked not only on this show, but quite frankly, our content on a weekly basis when it comes to live streams on your weekday mornings. And that has to change, quite frankly. And that will change moving forward. I just want to say, as somebody that is a part of a team, trying to figure out what's best, it's my job, my sole responsibility, quite honestly, to make money. And that's something that doesn't get talked a lot because it's a little taboo in this industry. You don't want to bring up money, but it's obvious. The internet content game is very hard. It's very hard. And really, one way to go about the internet content game to try to be able to make it is to come up with outlandish takes and say ridiculous things and be an absolute fool on the internet and quite honestly just engagement farm all day long, literally until you go to sleep. And then when you wake up the next morning, you decide you got to do it all over again. And that's just a terrible lifestyle, if we're being honest. It's a terrible lifestyle, one in which not many people enjoy actually living. Do we have serious takes in here? Are we passionate about what we say? Are there times where we have, as we've become known, a chatter bit at times? Yes, there's bits because we like to enjoy ourselves. We like to have fun. But to sit here and think that every single day I got to come up with some ridiculous topic to scream and yell about to try to make sure we have enough clicks to survive is absolutely outlandish. So I've decided over the past 3 or 4 weeks to try to find ways in which we can generate revenue at this company, enough revenue to be able to support the things that we also enjoy doing. That includes me going out and trying to find not only partners, but also other opportunities back in the things that we still make money on, but we used to make better money at. Now, I know I'm being very transparent right now, but I also want to tell you, I'm telling you all these things because I want you to have a general understanding of what happens on a day-to-day basis. There's a lot of people in this city, and there's a lot of haters, might I add, that wonder, how in the hell do these guys even do this? It's because they can't figure out that very problem. they're not, I don't want to say smart enough, but ultimately, they're not well equipped enough to find a way to go out on their own and make enough money to be able to do something like this. We've done it well enough to be at least considered possibly owned by the Castellinis. Now, I'm proud of that. I think that's a great thing. If people think that we have so much money around here that the Castellinis are supporting us, we're doing something right. But I will say, over the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, or maybe we'll call it 2 months, really since Tom's departure, we've struggled with trying to figure out what the identity of this show will be. Now, I'm openly telling you that, not because I think that the guys we put in the positions to take over, or whatever term you want to use, have done poorly, but more or less I guess as somebody, if we want to call me the manager, David Bell, which is a terrible job to have, quite frankly, because you don't really ever get any credit until I guess maybe you win the World Series. We'll see if that ever happens. I'd like to see if the manager gets credit if they win the World Series, but that's a discussion for another day. My job is to put people in places that they can succeed and also enjoy, quite honestly, enjoy their life as well. That's a relatively difficult thing. And I think there are times where we've kind of gotten lost in the sauce of trying to make sure that we continue to uphold things that we've done around here just because we've done them before. And I got news for you. That's what corporate America does. That's what you seen last night. If you continue just to run out the same old song and dance time and time again, and no one's afraid to do the old status quo, then essentially you find yourself and you're going to be dead. When you're this small of a company, you can't do that. So, ultimately, moving forward, I'm going to help fill in for Tom's show when he's not able to make it. Maybe I'll be a guest on Tom's show from time to time to keep some semblance of continuity. That way you know, on this time, at this day, there is a show. Now, on Off the Bench, we've done as good of a job, I think, as you could possibly try to do to make sure we are here from 10A to 12P every single day, because there's a lot of people that make this a part of their day, and we're very much appreciative of that. But I'll also admit that there needs to be somebody that owns this show. And for far too long, we've had basically, quite frankly, starting with me and going into the folks that basically we just said, hey, you got to be here every day because we've done this show for every bit of 2 years now. It's not really been owned. And I think in order to do a good job, someone has to own it. Now, it's my job to make sure that whoever owns it does a good enough job that we still continue to allow them to own it. That's fair to be said too. Just because somebody's the person, they might not be the right person. But what I'm going to ask of you, if you've watched this show long enough and you at least somewhat trust the idea of what we're going to try to accomplish, I just ask of you to give this show a chance for the next few months. Now, many of you have stuck with us from the very, very beginning, but I just want you to know that the goal is to increase essentially the entertainment of the show and quality of the show, or whatever term you want to come up with. That's fine. So moving forward on Monday, you're going to see some new things. You're also going to see the fact that Justin Kenner is going to sit at this very desk, and he's going to move forward with the show with a lot of the same faces on the sides that you've come to know. Now, I'll also admit that I am also going to be asking a lot of the people that are in this room that you've seen on a daily basis to do other things. And in order to ask them to do other things, they absolutely have to have a little bit of their workload taken back. So we're going to have to find ways to mix and match the guests, or maybe the co-host, whatever term you'd like to use. We're going to have to do that moving forward. Why? So we can make more content. So we can go do other things that might allow us to essentially produce revenue that we enjoy making. Otherwise, we can sit up here every day and we can come up with takes about, things that, quite frankly, that I know that I had to do, which is you're just not sure what the hell you're talking about half the time. Because it's the middle of summer, you got the Reds, you talk about the Reds for 30 minutes, and then after that, it's, pick out of a hat. Like today, the hat, nepotism. If you want to do a sports talk show, you know what you do? You just go and you find the headlines and you talk about whatever everyone else talks about on the internet. So we'll pass on the presidential debate because I'm not going down that path today. But I'll say, if I watched the presidential debate last night, the one thing that it did do was it instilled confidence in me. It should instill confidence in you, because it was the first time in my life I actually thought maybe I can be the president of the United States. That's the first time I've ever thought about it. But having said that, the other thing that I seen last night all over the internet was nepotism. Bronny James, yes. Was he drafted because of nepotism? Yes, he was. But I would also say there's nepotism throughout the entire world. It takes a lot of intellect. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to actually have this discussion if you want to have it. The reality is nepotism exists everywhere. And the way that it starts is because one person usually works their entire life to get to a certain point to where they have the privilege and they have the ability to make a nepotism decision. So do you blame somebody that's worked their entire life to possibly lean on something or do something for themselves that makes them feel good? If you've worked your entire life to get to the top of General Motors, per se, you've dedicated 50 years of your life, you really missed a lot. You missed out on, quite honestly, a lot of your family time, a lot of your time to basically do a lot of things that you personally enjoy when you were young enough to be able to enjoy them. But no, you were probably too busy crunching over emails, spreadsheets, and working your tail off just to be able to get to the spot that allows you to make a nepotism decision. LeBron James has done that, hasn't he? He's played in the NBA longer than a lot of people basically have been watching the NBA or care to admit. And he got to the top, and what did he do? He made a decision that was in his best interest, and that's what exists throughout the entire world. So if we want to start talking about nepotism as an issue, that's fine. But it's pretty much a global issue. And one would ask, is it morally right or wrong? That's a hard answer. It's a very difficult answer. It's one in which you'd have to ask yourself. I do hope, though, if there is one thing here, as I wrap up this first segment, and I'll send it to the guys after this, one thing I do hope is if we can put aside all of the things that we bring into nepotistic things, like race, like gender, like all the other excuses people want to make. The truth is about nepotism is it's a comfortable decision for people that have worked hard more than likely, or someone in their family before them has worked hard that's allowing them to make that decision. Again, to be clear, maybe it was 4 generations ago that the Brown family, I'm sure Mike Brown's great-great-great-granddaughter might have nepotism. But I would tell you that at some point, someone within that family had to make a tough decision, and they made a right decision that allowed them to get to the point where they can make a nepotism decision. So is it deserved or not? That's a tough answer to have. And if the answer is no, it's still not deserved, well, you're going to have a long, long, long list to go down to try to get mad about over who's doing what from a nepotism standpoint. Because you know who else is coming down the pike as well? His name is Charlie Woods. And you're damn right. He deserves every opportunity that he gets. You know why? Because his dad paved the way. His dad busted his tail his entire life to break down molds and borders and every other thing that you could possibly think of. You know why? Because if there was anyone in the world that was not supposed to be able to walk into any country club that they want to walk into right now, today, and get a tee time, is Tiger Woods when he was about 10 years old. If someone would have pointed to you and said, that kid right there is going to be one of the most successful XYZs, and you know what? When he gets to the very top, he could walk into any place where nepotism is probably at an all-time high. If you want to see nepotism, you walk into a country club, and I can promise you, you'll be able to find it. But you know what? Tiger Woods could walk into, you name the country club, and they could be playing their member today. And you know what? If Tiger Woods walked in there and he said, I want a tee time at 1 o'clock, you know who's getting a tee time at 1 o'clock? Tiger Woods is. So nepotism isn't about what you want to make it about. It's about the fact of the matter is that you work really hard in your life, you get to the very, very top, and sometimes, you know what? You've earned the right to make a decision or two based off what you want. Now, if you don't like that, so be it. But that's the truth. These guys will be back next segment with your traditional off the bench. Hopefully you enjoy our new content coming Monday. Pleasure to be back. I'll see you on Chatterbox Reds tonight.
And welcome back in. We are Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Welcome on in if you're listening to the radio. That was our boss, Trace Fowler, with a speech that could have fired up a nation. I am ready to run through 3 brick walls after listening to that speech. and I know everybody else is too. But welcome on in. This is the last day of me starting off the show. This is the last day of us over here in the fun aisle starting off the show because Justin Kinner will be the new host of Off the Bench. Justin has, again, I would say, not to quote the people in the chat, but a little bit I'm quoting the people in the chat. They wanted a more adult host, so that's what they'll get with Justin Kinner. He's a longtime radio guy. You guys know him. If you don't like Justin, you at least can tune in for us to roast Justin about his silly Browns takes and every other take he has, like Joey Votto stinks. That's Justin Kinner's words, not mine. But yeah, boys, how we doing?
Doing good.
Anything to watch last night?
Nope.
Nope.
Not really.
Nothing to watch?
Biggie Smalls cover here in Hamilton. That was fun.
Really?
That was fun.
Did you go?
Oh, yeah, I went. It was
Was
fun.
he good?
He was a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys not watch the Reds game?
Nah.
You went 11 to whatever. No.
Yeah, that's great. That's great television.
That was
I
great.
watched
You're
it.
right.
watched it
That
from
was
start to
Are
finish.
the-
It was
are-
great.
Could game one of a series 2024 Reds beat the 1927 Yankees? They just played one game.
Well,
The
you would
one
have,
game,
you
the
would have
start
to
of
play game 2 and game 3.
Well, yeah, you'd have to
it
play
would
the
have to be a
series.
series.
It'd have to be game
Right.
one. But yes, I think they would.
Easily. It's
They're
the best game 1
te-
team of all time.
They're great. They're amazing.
It's a shame that you can't play game 1 every night. 162 game 1s, this team would be the best team of all time.
That's 100% true. I was looking up some sort of sports book for me to bet on Cardinals live to win this series, but I can't find it. So until somebody finds me that.
Oh, come on.
What do you mean?
They looked good. They looked good last
looked
night.
good.
First game against the Pirates.
Marte's back. The team's better because of it.
That is a true statement.
Yep.
That
Team
is-
went from
You're right.
29th to 27th.
You're right. Outside of that, I think we can just get right into headlines unless anybody else has something to add. Jimmy, how are we doing?
Good. Feeling better this morning.
That's good.
so-
You look really good. Casey?
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Good.
Feeling
Good.
good.
Everybody's here. The vibes are high.
Casey, that hat looks great on you.
Well, thanks. Elliot, that hat looks really good on you too.
The hat looks really, really good on Casey.
You know what, Casey? That hat looks really good on you. Radio's going to love that bit. All right, moving on here. Headlines. Reed talked about it a little bit. The Cincinnati Reds, they're all the way back. Had a negative show yesterday. Naturally, they go out and win. They score 11 runs, and they destroy the Cardinals.
Should we start being negative after good games? Is that the issue?
Yeah,
after
I think-
game ones
I
were
think-
too positive?
I think that's it.
We got a
I think
nitpick?
that's it. 11-4 the final score. It was a blowout pretty much from the jump. Andrew Abbott didn't look his best, walking 6 batters, throwing over 100 pitches in 5 innings. He only allowed, though, 2 runs, which I guess is a positive to take away from that. He fought through it. Good pitchers find a way to get through it, and he got through it.
How did he get through that first inning?
I don't know.
How did he get through that first inning? That was crazy.
His ERA is still around 3.4, so still the best third guy in the nation. The offense, they came alive last night. The Reds had 6 different players hit 6 doubles. Jonathan India added 2 more hits, including a double and an RBI. 6 straight multi-hit games now for Jonathan India. 7 in his last 9. He has 14 hits in his last 7 games, while hitting .560 with a .630 OBP, slugging .960 over that stretch. Over the last month, he's hitting .350 with an on-base percentage of .440. Jonathan India, leader of men. Elly Cruz went 3 for 5 with a triple and an RBI and a stolen base. Has 5 multi-hit games in his last 6. He is hitting .263 with a .353 on-base percentage and a .483 slug over his last month of baseball, hitting .420 over his last week. Spencer Steer, he went 2 for 5 with a home run and a double last night, a couple extra base hits for our guy. And this is the big one. Reed alluded to it. Noelvi Marte, in his return, 3 for 5 with a double, an RBI, and scored 3 different times. Yesterday on the show, we were concerned that he wasn't going to be the player that we all hoped he would after a rough start over the past 2 weeks down in AAA. Turns out all it took was one meatball Mikolas to come out there and find your game. So good for our good friend Noelvi Marte. Will Benson got up off the mat with 2 hits and a double of his own last night. Good to see him show up. Every starter for the Reds had a hit except for our good friend Luke Maley. Tyler Stevenson was scratched early on because his wife went into labor. So congratulations to Tyler Stevenson.
Were you worried? Were you worried when he was a late scratch? I was texting in the chat about it. No one.
No,
knew.
because
he was day to day for a while.
we knew
because
that
of
this was an
Yeah.
inevitability.
Yeah,
So it was okay.
Miles Mikolas, final stat line. Miles Mikolas, Final stat line.
McCollus.
4 1/3 innings, 12 hits, 9 earned runs. You did it, buddy. You showed up.
Say the line.
Meatball Michaelis.
Yeah, that's right. Meatball Miles.
Meatball Miles. We can do that one too. Meatball Miles. Reds and Cardinals are back at it tonight. 8:15 your first pitch. Frankie Montas with a 4.48 ERA and a 1.36 WHIP takes on Andre Palante, who is rocking a 5.23 ERA and a 1.6 WHIP. So the Reds hopefully are able to continue that hot offensive streak tonight. Around the league, I didn't want to do this, Jim. You asked me not to do it.
I did
He
ask
asked
you
you
not to
really
do it.
nicely not to do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I have to sit here and talk about my terrible Reds, I got to make fun of your Tigers. And boy, do they stink. Angels shut out the Tigers last night 5-0. Jack Flaherty got shelled 5 2/3 innings, allowing 5 earned runs. Renfroe, Miguel Sano, and Willie Calhoun all hit home runs. Any thoughts on your Tigers, Jim?
Yeah, it stunk. I'm not going to lie. I thought this is a series that I feel like they had to win.
Yeah, because the Angels
And
aren't very good.
The Angels are not very good, and they lost game 1, and honestly, it was never close. The at-bats got less and less competitive as the game went on, and this is a pitcher that had a 5 ERA in AAA, so to come out and throw 8 shutout innings against us is pretty demoralizing. And then to make everything worse, after the game, I was scrolling through Twitter, and I come to find out that this 37-44 start at the midway point for the Tigers is their best start in 8 years, and they're 7 games under. So that just makes everything worse.
Well, congrats.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jimbo.
That's awesome.
Good work, Jimmy.
Give me stats.
Give me stats.
Stop touching my Geography B trophy.
Sorry.
Royals win 2-1. Former Red Ben Lively did his best. He pitched a gem, going 6 innings, giving up 2 earned runs while striking out 5. Only 76 pitches through 6 innings of work last night for Ben Lively. Was not enough. Royals take the win. Blue Jays, they crushed the Yankees. It was over after the first inning, 5 runs in the first. I don't know if anybody saw this play, but it was a routine ground ball down the first base line. And it was somebody, I forget the name, forgive me. He wasn't traditionally a first baseman. He wasn't supposed to be there, I don't believe, last night. And he let the ball roll all the way down to the first base line, hoping it would go foul, which is crazy because he could have just picked it up. But he let it roll down all the way, hit the first base, the actual base itself, and a run was scored off that, and the inning continued. Carlos Rodon got shelled, 10 hits, 8 earned runs. George Springer hit 2 home runs, while Vladdy hit 1. Burns, that would be Corbin Burns, went 7 innings, allowing 9 hits and 1 earned run, while striking out 5. 11-2, the Orioles dominate the Rangers. Rangers struggling a little bit. Looks like Bruce Bochy might not be a great manager. Marlins win a tough game against the Phillies.
4 championships.
Bryce Harper hurt his hamstring on the final play of the game. 7-4 the final score, but if Bryce Harper's hurt, yikes. Yikes for the Philadelphia Phillies.
They have Castellanos, though. They're all right.
White Sox, they shut out the Braves 1-0. They scored 1 run in the first on a Luis Robert solo shot. That was the difference. 1-0.
Did we decide Robert?
It's Robert. But Robert's more fun.
I like Robert better.
Michaelis. Cubs beat the Giants in 10. 5-3 the final score. Would have really liked a 4-3 final score, but that's okay. 5-3 the final score. Back on track?
All the way back.
All the way back.
I don't ever
Here they
lose faith in my Chicago Cubs until the season's over.
Yep. Twins, they obliterate the Diamondbacks 13-6. Byron Buxton's 3-run shot helped carry him all the way home. Jordan Montgomery went 2 2/3, allowing 9 hits, 8 runs, striking out a batter. His ERA for the season is now 6. Boris clients struggling this year. The new ones, that is, the newly free agent signings this season. I think all of them have struggled. But good for them. Good for Boris. Gives them the bag. Our Boris client, Jonathan India, doing very well. Just want to point that out.
That's true.
And Elly. Elly's a Boris client too, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. Both of them doing great. And they're going to be here for a long time. NBA news. Some notable names that got drafted yesterday. Kyle Filipowski goes to Utah. I'm sure he and his girlfriend are going to like that a lot. Marquette guard Tyler Kolek goes to the Knicks. We have Johnny Furphy out of Kansas. He went to the Pacers.
Whoop.
Johnny Furphy.
2 phenomenal second-round picks by the Pacers. Johnny Furphy and then Tristan Newton, the UConn point guard who won Tournament Player of the Year.
Yes. Houston guard Jamal Shed went to the Raptors. And this is the big one. As Trace went on his speech about it to open the show, Bronny James has gone to the Los Angeles Lakers. Allegedly, Rich Paul was calling teams up last night and telling them if they want to draft him, he's going to go play in Australia. Now, I don't know how many leagues would allow something like that to happen.
Well, the NFL certainly does.
Yeah,
Every league does.
Every league does.
Literally every league.
Maybe. I don't know. That's pretty crazy.
Eli Manning.
JD Drew did it in the MLB.
Elway did it.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I don't know if their agents were the ones that did it, though. Where was it? I mean,
That's who talks to the teams.
Yeah.
Players
Well,
don't
what
talk
are you
directly to the teams.
well, I don't know. If he comes out and says in like press and stuff that he's not going to do it. Anyway, doesn't matter. Bronny James is a Los Angeles Laker. People were upset about this. I mean, it's fine. It's a second-round NBA draft pick. I don't think that was going to be a super important
Pick
piece.
55 isn't a star ever.
No.
So even if Bronny checks on the court and he's good, well, ever? Okay. So you go into the computer. Rarely is pick 55 a star. It's 58 pick draft. You're picking with the last couple picks there. And, Bronny's going to be interesting player. He shows traits of a decent perimeter defender. He can shoot the ball well. He'll go to the G League for a year or two. He probably should have went back to college. But if you can go straight to the league, wouldn't you do the same thing? So his dad got him drafted, and he's going to be on the Lakers. I think it's one of the coolest things to ever happen in our lifetime.
I firmly believe that when that happens, when they get to play their first game together, it will be the most watched regular season NBA game of all time.
Tickets for
I'll stand
late
by
season Lakers games have already doubled.
So I thought it was cool. The pictures were shown last night. Some of the videos of LeBron and the Cavs with baby Bronny, and the parallels there. I think it's really cool.
LeBron's
people forget. People are mad at this. Giannis's brother Thanasis is on the Bucks.
Way worse than
He's
Bronny.
terrible. He actually can't play the sport, and he still plays somewhat meaningful minutes over there whenever they're blowing out a team. But still, he'll play like 10 minutes every blowout.
You had a couple first-round picks this year that are under foreign contracts for 2 or 3 years that aren't even going to come over until 26, 27. So the idea that every draft pick in the NBA draft is meant to, compete right away and contribute right away just simply isn't true. So if you can use the late pick on a really, really cool moment, I don't see why not. LeBron certainly earned the right.
Correct.
His stats last year were better than his stats in 2004 when Bronny was born. Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely insane. And yeah, if LeBron James is the face of the NBA, it's still how many years has he been in the league now? 20 years he's been in the NBA.
03 draft, yep.
And if I can make LeBron James happy, as Jacob just said, who's still playing like he was 20 years ago, then why not do it? Is it for PR? Is it for a special moment? Sure, it's for all of that, and it's to make LeBron happy. Can Bronny James be a decent NBA talent? Maybe. I don't know. He wasn't drafted because of his NBA talent, and that's a fact. But nonetheless, I still think it's a cool story, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. Moving on. Soccer, the United States of America. They fell to Panama yesterday. Jose Fajardo gave Panama the 2-1 lead in the 83rd minute. Casey, Jimmy, thoughts?
Disappointing.
You guys are the soccer guys. I need more than just disappointing.
Well, I mean, that's a match they can't lose. Now, to even make the knockout stage of the Copa, they have to beat Uruguay, which probably isn't going to happen.
Is Uruguay good?
Yes. They've won 15 Copas.
Uruguay's the guy. They had the guy who ate
Uruguay
people,
has
right?
kicked out America in the World Cup a few
Suarez. He
times,
eats
if I
people.
recall.
Plays with Messi in Miami.
Yes.
Uruguay has
Is
kicked
it?
out America in the World Cup at least 2 times in our lifetime.
Panama, I believe, beat U.S. in the World Cup the most recent time to knock them out.
Is
I
this
think that's true.
I don't think that's true because I just saw.
Saw it on ESPN,
I
so
was
they
just-
must have lied to me.
I was just scrolling through Twitter. Well, this is actually. Hang on, before I say what I'm about to say, I saw a tweet that says USA under Trump, they beat Panama every single time.
Oh,
under
yeah.
Biden, they just recently lost. So
There we go.
yeah.
Didn't expect that kind of analysis today. My God.
That's hard-hitting
I don't know.
analysis.
Maybe there's
Thanks,
a correlation
Casey.
there.
I love the soccer
Under
team.
Teddy Roosevelt, we also beat Panama. Shout out the canal.
Can I say one thing though? Like they were just out physical, and whether or not you want to say like it was dirty soccer out there on the field, I mean, the one highlight that I would show people is Pulisic just getting like
I saw that. He got
tackled.
mauled.
Like, yeah, like that. That's basically how the game was all match. So
Did they
It's
get
just-
a red card for that? Or a
I
card for that? I saw
don't- I know
the
both teams
U.S. got a red card early.
I know both teams got a red card. I did not watch the game.
Yes.
So
U.S. got a red card in the 16th minute, and Panama got a red card late. I after they went up 2-1 when the U.S. were trying to equalize. It was kind of just a cheap foul.
Is this the worst loss than Trinidad and Tobago many years ago
be.
to eliminate the United States from the World Cup?
Trinidad and Tobago was pretty bad.
That was.
Yeah.
I was on the precipice of becoming a U.S. soccer fan at that point.
Yeah,
and
so
then
was I.
Trinidad and Tobago took it out of me.
That's true. It's very sad. They're going to have to do some work to advance to the next stage of the Copas, I believe. They're going to have to win out, right? Is that what it is?
They're going to probably have to beat Uruguay.
You have to win.
Unless Bolivia beats Panama, which
Let's go Bolivia.
Yeah.
Bolivia lost 5-0 to Uruguay last night. So.
Oh, tough. All right, and final. We have. I was going to do something. It was the last. There it is. Indiana Fever lost 89-77 to the Storm. Caitlin Clark led Fever scores with 15 points. She added 6 boards, 7 assists. Anybody want to guess how many turnovers she had?
I'll go 6.
She did have 6 turnovers again.
Boom.
Man, she's the turnover merchant. But we all like Caitlin Clark.
She plays to the back of her baseball card.
She really does. That's it. ESPN 1410 Wing AM, presented by, ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We are off the bench. Chatterbox Sports, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We're going to take a short break. We're coming back. We're talking about the Cincinnati Reds. And then later in the show, we're going to talk more about the Cincinnati Reds with our good friend and yours, Clay Snowden. See you in a bit. Welcome back in. We are off the bench. We are Ohio. Elliot Rearing, Reed Mouse, Jacob Tissett, Casey McAllister, Jimmy Collins, and soon-to-be Justin Kinner. Friends of the radio program, if you're listening on ESPN 1410, Justin Kinner will now have another show to conquer. So thank you, Justin Kinner, for joining Chatterbox Sports as we have our new host. Moving on here, the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, they dominated last night. It was a feel-good game. The Reds destroyed the Cardinals. Shout out to Miles Michaelis again. I'm going to keep shouting him out because, boy, is he terrible. He made this Reds lineup look like a bunch of all-stars last night, so I can't thank him enough. The story of the game, Noelvi Marte, we were all concerned what was going to happen there. Was Noelvi Marte a bad player? Is he going to be the same player as he was without the juice that magically appeared in the system, to be fair to him? Will he be that guy? Will he be the person that rings the bell for the Reds? And yes, he is. Yep.
I think I was exactly right. He's just built to see Major League pitching. The AAA pitching just threw him off so much.
He was just swinging. He was just stretching. That's what it was. He was just stretching down there, just getting loose.
Getting rid of that back tightness from all those steroids.
And again, it was a feel-good game. Andrew Abbott didn't pitch well. If you watched it, he looked bad, I would say. But when you have a bad outing and you escape, you still go 5 innings, give up only 2 earned runs. I'm not going to complain about it. So
Andrew Abbott seems to get through not having his best stuff a lot. Which somewhat seems like an issue to me. I would love him to have his best stuff more often, but at least when he doesn't, he still continues to fight.
Are you saying he's the new Bulldog workhorse?
No, he's much better than Ashcraft.
The last 4 outings for Andrew Abbott, he has yet to go 6. He has yet to go 6 innings. He went 5 2/3, 5 and 5, all throwing a lot of pitches, giving up relatively the same amount of runs, 2, 3, and 1. I don't think he's had his best stuff for a while, but good news is he looks fine. He looks fine, and he looks serviceable, and the Reds were able to get a win last night. Any other major takeaways? The only other one I had, Will Benson was able to find his footing a little bit last night. He had 2 RBIs and a double, 2 hits. So it's good to see him just at least look somewhat competent out there. When you have to get benched against righties and your other right fielder's hurt, it can't get any lower for you. So him last night going out there and at least getting on base a couple of times, making solid contact. I think Bryce Spalding tweeted out it wasn't the world's best contact. It wasn't hitting the ball really far or hard, but saying that, he was able to go last night and contribute in a big way. So thank you, Will Benson. Hopefully this is the start of something new. A lot of these Reds players go on these little streaks, and Will Benson is not immune to that. So hopefully he's able to build off this, take this series. I think every game's against right-handed pitching. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yep.
So you're going to play every single day, Will, while Jake Fraley recuperates from the leg contusion. So if you're able to make an impact this series, I'll say you're all the way back.
I'd love it. I'd love a competitive Will Benson. I don't care about soft contact. He was making no contact for the first 3 months of the year.
Yep.
So I love seeing that from Will Benson. We've always talked about how his ceiling is much, much higher than this. Probably much higher than any of these other AAA guys we're calling up that would take his spot. So hopefully he can come out of it.
Yeah, it was just a feel good game. Again, do I think the Reds are going to win the series? No. Pessimist to me says absolutely not. They haven't done it in a while. 9 times this season, 9. They've won the first game of the series and then proceeded to lose the series. If I was a betting man, I'd bet that it's a split, but I wouldn't rule out the series loss. I think the Cardinals are one of the hotter teams of baseball as of this very second. But maybe the Reds can build again off this momentum, and we'll see. Other than that, not a bunch of takeaways. Jonathan India, if you want to talk about Jonathan India for just 1 second, hottest player on the planet, quite literally. He is playing the best baseball of his entire career. If you didn't think that he could improve off that 2021 Rookie of the Year season, he's done that. He's playing better than he did in 2021 when he won the Rookie of the Year right now. So if he's able to continue this, hopefully, maybe he earns a spot on the infield going forward. I don't know. I don't know. Matt McClain obviously has that second base spot, but if Matt McClain is not available to play, then the ball goes to Jonathan India, who is available to play. He has not been hurt, knock on all the wood I can find, yet this season, really. So Jonathan India, phenomenal. We've talked about it all week long, but he stayed hot. I mean, it's incredible that he stayed this hot for this long. Over the last month, he is destroying the cover off the baseball, destroying it. And I think there was a stretch there where we were concerned that he would just come up to the plate and he would just watch 4 pitches, strike out without swinging a bat. Clearly, that's not the case. He's going out guns a-blazing every single at-bat right now. He's swinging away. He's also still has that patience that we love. He just found a middle. He found a middle of it, and he's doing a great job with it. So good for Jonathan India, good for the Cincinnati Reds. Momentum builder is what I'm hoping this is, a momentum builder. Frankie Montas is on the mound tonight, as I mentioned earlier. Frankie Montas, I don't expect a ton from him tonight, but the good news is Andre Palante, not a very good pitcher, respectfully. I say that with love and respect. Offense needs to capitalize. Please give me some sort of consistency tonight. Go out there, show out, score 6 runs. That's what I want. I want a 6-run game, and if Frankie Montas can't keep his runs down below 4, we'll take the loss. But Frankie Montas has been a serviceable pitcher. I'm not mad at Frankie Montas for what he's done this year. He's probably been about what I expected, maybe a little bit disappointing in terms of what I thought he could potentially be as our opening day starter. People forget, as our opening day starter. But yeah, I'm ready to roll tonight. I'm not going to write too much into last night's win because we do this once a week where you score 11 on a team and you look like you're all the way back. And the question is, Jacob, are they all the way back?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Let's just do that again.
I got nothing.
I mean,
else.
right? We have.
It's
to.
like we have to because
if you're not back, if the season's over every loss, you have to be back every win.
Correct.
So we're gonna be back again.
Again, we'll see what happens. But watching last night's game, it was fun. Not a ton to discuss outside of that. We're gonna talk with Clay Snowden about the game last night and some of the other topics that we've discussed a little bit this week and what are his thoughts, the expectations for the Reds going forward as a long-term thing, not maybe this season, but as a long-term. But we'll see.
We have a new graphic. We just showed the win streak counter. You were talking about streaks and everything like that. We're going to track Noelvi Marte as he chases Joe DiMaggio. Hit streak currently at 17 games. Will he get the record?
Which is
54?
56.
56.
Yeah.
56.
56.
Drew,
all right.
Drew,
40 more.
40 more. That's it. Drew Garrison with a $20 super chat. Good morning, all. I have been away this week helping my father kick cancer's ass. I am glad to be back. I have missed and loved you all. You are all handsome except Jimmy. Let's have a Friday. Jim?
I mean, fair. Even though I am Jimmy Good Looks. It's all right.
You are Jimmy Good Looks.
Well, now you're Jimmy Not Good Looks.
Yeah.
Drew just paid $20
Drew said-
to say you're ugly. So
Drew said I'm ugly. That's fine.
must be really ugly.
Yeah.
Mark Fetters. I'm kidding, Jimmy. Mark Fetters, member for 9 months. Almost a year of our good friend Mark Fetters supporting us.
It's a full-term pregnancy.
That it?
Wow, that is.
Wow. Mark Fetters could have had a new child in the time he's been in a
There you go.
How about that?
Well, not if,
Those are the stats you hear on the show.
C-Box is the best thing on YouTube. So thank you very much, Mark Fetters. Thank you very much, Drew Garrison. Thank you, everybody who tunes in every single day on our YouTube stream. Thank you, everybody who listens on the radio every single day. And hopefully this is a new path for the off-the-bench crew as we find some consistency, as Trace alluded to. But any other takeaways? Casey, you watched the game a little bit last night. The Cincinnati Reds destroyed the Cardinals. Elly De La Cruz, he had 3 hits.
He did.
Any thoughts on Elly De La Cruz?
He gets another day of not being sent down to Chattanooga. Yes.
Yeah.
Congrats, Elly. I mean, yeah, he's great, man. I mean, what more do you want me to say? He's exactly what this team needs at the moment. He's producing at a very high level. He's at a 255 average. I remember when we had the conversation about Elly where we would be comfortable with him at like a 235 with, 80 stolen bases on the year, and he's way over pace on that at that moment. So
he has had 4 3-hit games over his last 10.
It's phenomenal.
4 3-hit games over his last
He's
10.
hitting 340 in his last 15.
The 255 average is what I expect him to be at most of the time.
That's what I expect as well. You expect more?
You think
Yes.
more?
Yes, I expect him to hit more than over 255 when he gets to where he'll be.
But you said like not even a month ago that.
For his rookie season or his first full season in the league, 255 is fine. I'll be very disappointed if he's a 255 hitter his entire career. I think he's much better than that.
Oh well, we're on the same page then. We're on the same page. But yeah,
average doesn't concern me at all with Elly De La Cruz because if you can just get on base and you can
his
steal
OBP
bases,
is the most important thing for him.
Yes.
Just because he makes such a big difference as soon as he's on the base path. Even if he doesn't steal, the pitcher he's just in the pitcher's head.
Yeah.
That is the one thing I do look at though. He's at 38 steals. That number.
That's the over. That cashed the over
It
last
did.
night for
It
me.
did.
37.5.
We're over, and it's June 28th. I mean,
wild.
what a bet by us.
It could have cashed probably at the end of May, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing is he was at 30 steals right in the middle of May, and he's at 38 now. So I would love for those numbers to pick back up, but obviously with the Reds' current lineup, pitcher's pretty focused on him.
Cashed it 1 game into the second half of the year. That was game 82.
That's incredible.
Game 82. Cashed the.
You think he gets to his home run line, 21.5?
That was his home run line. Yeah, he'll get to that.
I think so too.
He'll get to that.
I took the special.
I'm on there too.
The line on DraftKings: 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. Well, 30 stolen bases.
It's going to be close.
It's going to be close.
It's not a lock. It's
How many
already
home runs
it's
is he
already
at?
done.
14.
14.
He's 14.
I don't think he's getting to 30 home runs.
It takes one hot week of
But-
3-4 home runs, and he's back on
Yeah,
pace.
You know who got
hit-
the 30
he hit
homers?
6 home runs in like 2 weeks
Right.
back in April, right?
Right. Like, he just needs to do that one more time.
Yeah,
It's definitely in play. What was that? Plus 500, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really big number. It's
incredible.
I put enough on there to be like very happy with the future.
I
so.
maxed that special bet out.
Yeah.
It's very much in play. I mean, Spencer Torkelson hit 30 home runs in a year. So
Where's he at now?
Toledo.
Oh, Mud Hens.
We have our good friend Harrow is a member for 8 months. My member baby is pushing on the walls. How about that?
True nut cutter.
That's incredible.
That analogy by you is going to live on forever.
That's
now.
incredible.
Thanks, Hara.
How many member babies will we have? Find out, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to end this segment.
We're going to celebrate birthdays now.
Yeah.
For the member babies.
Yeah. I'm gonna end this segment just a little bit early because what was that point? What's this pointing?
I was just going to ask
Go ahead.
really quickly
ahead.
before we ended this about Noelvi Marte because he had 3 hits yesterday, and all of you guys said that he is your one true shining light hope for this remaining season. How much more does he need? What more does he need to do after today? What does he need to stay around to continue having?
If he does, if he replicates what he did last season, anything close to it, we're fine. And that's again, he hit
320 to be fair.
He hit 300.
like-
If he hits 275 with a 350 OBP, we're good, baby. We're
He
good.
also has about, like you said before the show, he has about a month and a half, 2 months after last night before I even look at his stats.
So that
Like he needs to get comfortable. He bought himself some time.
Yeah, I'll make this really quickly because I know we got to get to the interview. But if he didn't have the game that he had last night, he would be under a microscope until he had that game.
Right.
And just the fact that he has 3 hits in his debut back to the squad means that you'll forget about anything he did in AAA for 3-4 weeks. Like he has to really struggle to even bring that thought back in your mind.
Yep.
The fact that his first hit was a double, that made me believe.
Yeah,
right
2 of his
away.
3 hits, hard hit balls.
Yep.
Great.
So that
Played
goes
well.
against everything we saw that he
very
did in the
well.
last 2 weeks. So good for Noelvi Marte, good for the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to continue this Reds conversation coming up next with Clay Snowden. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
And we're back here on 1410 Wing AM as Elliot gets ready to get back into the Thunderdome, into the interview hot seat with Clay Snowden. Reds obviously got their big win last night. They dominate in Game 1 series. Let's see if they can take a series from St. Louis, who's been playing red hot. And 3 more games this weekend, all against right-handed pitching. So we'll see what the Reds can do if they can get over those woes that has been Games 2 and 3. And especially the getaway days, which have escaped the Reds for the longest time. So as Elliot gets ready, the only question I have for you, Jacob,
I'll have an answer.
Or what are your expectations for the rest of the series? Because I know we make fun, we do the bit about how they can't win the rest of the series. Is your expectations now you got to win the series? Got to take this because it is a 4-game.
At least split it. I mean, you got to win another game. You can't go 0 for 3 in these last 3 games. You're playing right-handed pitching which your lineup's supposed to be better against. We certainly have a shot. Guys are coming out of slumps. You got to at least split the series. I'd love to win it.
Yeah, and especially you're playing a really a red hot Cardinals team. I mean, this team was since Mother's Day. No one's been playing better, maybe in Major League Baseball, than the St. Louis Cardinals.
And you go to New York after this, which is going to be an uphill battle, so you got to give yourself some wiggle room.
That's right. Yeah, so it's a big chance to get some wins over divisional opponent against a team that is playing very well and get closer into the wild card standings. But I want to make sure that we are good to go. I don't think we are quite there yet, but it should be a good one tonight. Should be a good one tonight. Frankie has been exactly what you expect him to be. Coming out of when you signed him, he's been a professional. Sure. He's been a professional pitcher. He's playing against. You guys are facing a guy that has not been very good this year, and Andy Pellante. So let's see if we can keep the bats going.
Yeah, no, it seems like it'll be a good day to keep the bats going. Pellante has an ERA above 5, approaching 5.5.
Yeah.
It seems like it's going to be a positive for the Reds.
There's nothing worse than facing a pitcher that has a 6 ERA, a 5.5 ERA, and he just absolutely shoves against your team.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You know what that's like?
Yeah, I do. Thanks for bringing that up. No,
Same.
Oh, nice, Jimmy.
Yeah. All right, we're good to go.
We are good to go. Welcome on in. Again, shout out to everybody tuning in today. This is going to be a longer segment because we have our good friend, Clay Snowden. We now welcome on Clay himself, MLB and Reds contributor for Just Baseball. Clay, how are you, buddy?
Couldn't be better, man. Could not be better. I'm even a company man today.
How about that?
I'm wearing the logo today.
How about that? Good for you, Clay. I'll tell you what, that blank wall behind you looks really good today. That looks really special.
I didn't bother to change my setup around to make it pretty for you all. The other side's nice. You all have seen it maybe next time.
Okay. Hopefully next time we'll get to see. If you could just have a Sharpie, just draw a little picture back there. But that's okay. We're going to continue on. We'll continue on. Clay, I want to start with the good. The Reds obliterated the last night. Every player got involved except for Luke Maley. Shout out. But the big takeaway was Noelvi Marte. We just discussed it here on Off the Bench. 3 hits, looked confident. How much stock do you put into those woeful numbers we saw over the last 2 weeks in AAA? But is this the guy we saw last night, is this the guy we're going to see going forward?
Yeah, I think that, what he did last year in a much larger sample size is at a higher level is more important than, 2 weeks in Louisville or whatever it was. He may have just been working on stuff. We always say, oh, yeah, it's just like spring training, which we can apply that here as well. So I'm not too worried about it. Big spark last night. Just being able to come in and produce immediately. And not that he'll get 3 hits every game, but the way that he was able to step up and add a little bit of something to this team. I've been saying, this team needs a spark. They need a kick in the ass of some kind.
Yeah.
It's been kind of monotone, if you will, across this lineup and this team recently. So maybe he can bring something that this team needs.
As you mentioned there that a lot of the lineup has not performed as well as maybe they could. One guy has been that exception, and that has been Jonathan India. Jonathan India continues to stay hot. 2 more hits last night. As he continues to play this well, do you see a world where he earns a starting spot in this infield going forward for the future? I'm talking next year as well. If not, if you can't see that, does it make sense to trade him at the deadline this year or maybe next year? Do you think they'll move on from Jonathan India and they'll capitalize on this insanely hot play that he's performing right now?
You not taking a victory lap of some kind on Jonathan India is the most professional thing you've ever done in your life, right there.
Well, Clay, I didn't take a big victory lap because I think right before this past month, I declared him dead, and I declared the Red season dead, and Jonathan India was the worst player. So I can't take too much of a victory lap because I already walked back on it once. That's why.
Well, good. Yeah, I think right now it's just all an added bonus, and it's too early, too small of a sample still. Like, we've seen the past 2 years of a sample of him being pretty meh. Yeah. But he's impacting the baseball at a higher rate than he has in the past, really. And it's encouraging. I'm far from ready to say, like, all right, we got to start moving other pieces to keep Jonathan India around. He signed through next year. I know that was kind of like just like, an arbitration type thing where they get 2 years and settle on the cost. But in terms of trading him, I mean, it just depends on where the Reds are at the end of this month or at the end of July. To me, I would trade him. Like, if there's value there and you're getting a nice piece back, like, I'm okay trading him just because of the amount of pieces you have in the infield. Now, if you suddenly don't trust those pieces going forward or the team has soured on them in some way, which I don't see any reason to, then yeah, sure, keep him around. But, they made it sound like he was going to play all over the place. I know injuries have limited that availability, but he really hasn't shown that yet. So to me, I just don't know if the value is going to make sense to trade him. Now, if it does, then I'm down to trade him. That's fine. But I mean, if you're another team, how much are you paying for Jonathan India? Like, I'm not giving up anything significant for it. So at that point, it's just push comes to shove. You might as well keep him. He's played well. Let's ride out the rest of the season with him and, look at it in the offseason.
My whole argument against it from the beginning was when something like this season happens and you start losing guys to injuries left and right, it seems like every single night we've got a new injury. You have a guy like Jonathan India who's able to do this. We've now seen it. Over the past month, he's hitting the cover off the baseball. And to have that guy as a piece off the bench, that's valuable, man. And that's why I never really wanted to ship him out. I will say this. If Matt McClain is able to be and I know I can't really ask a guy to be healthy, but if he's able to be healthy next season and play up to the Matt McClain that we saw of him last season, that's when I would go next year and be like, all right, maybe it's time to move on from Jonathan India if we don't see a long-term plan with him here. But at the end of the day, depth is the most important thing. We've learned that this season, and keeping Jonathan India would be valuable, at least in my eyes, and your eyes clearly as well. Though they won last night, the Reds have struggled since the 7-game winning streak. They won 7, and they've seemingly lost 10 of 16. What has been the main area of issue or main area of concern for the Cincinnati Reds during this slow slump of a stretch here?
To me, the easy answer is the lineup, right? I mean, you can look up and down that lineup most nights, and you'll see players that are just 4A players, and that's just the position that they're in right now for various reasons, and it just is what it is. They're not helping themselves either. The margins get smaller and smaller when you have a weaker and weaker lineup. And when they make errors, stupid mental errors or errors on the base paths or bobble this ball or don't focus here, like those, they are not talented enough to shrink those margins anymore. They just simply aren't. So to me, it's, a combination of just like not having the right amount of talent on the team the past couple weeks, and also just not being, I don't know if it's hard for me to say they're not focused. Like, I don't talk to them. I don't sit in I can only go what's based off of the play on the field. And it hasn't looked focused to me. It hasn't looked like their best effort. And that's kind of maybe the biggest concern is, why isn't this team always showing 110% effort or 110% focus?
The only thing I can think of is that seemingly when you do show that focus and that effort, the injuries come. And then at some point, it's just unluckiness, and they all get hurt. And I mentioned it a little bit early on, but the injuries continue to stack up. Fraley, leg contusion, Candelario. From everything I've heard, it sounds terrible. He's going to get an MRI either today or this weekend to see if he's going to be able to stay up and stay with the Cincinnati Reds. And he's arguably been the third best hitter for the Reds this season, maybe second. Emilio Pagan, we found out yesterday, moving to the 60-day IL. IL. We know Nick Lodolo's on the IL yet again with a blister. A lot has been made about the mishandling of these injuries by the medical staff. Do you believe there's any merit in that whatsoever? Do you think that the Reds medical staff is so far below any other standard that has been set in Major League Baseball that they are the reason this team is so badly bruised?
Two things on this. First, I don't think fans have a great enough grasp on the rest of the league and how other teams' injury situations are. Like, this is not the most uncommon thing in the world to see a player like, CES. I know that that's the example everyone wants to use. Like, it's weird, it's bizarre, but it's not like it has never happened anywhere else. So there's no other second opinions. There's no other cases where a player, and what's weird is they automatically resort to the medical staff. Like, it is possible that at one point a player's injury was playable, and in between that time of not playable, something else happened, or it got worse, or anyone that's played a sport has understood that can happen. And I'm not just like blindly defending them. I just think it's really hard to call out what I saw on social media this weekend: medical malpractice, an extremely serious situation.
Oh yeah.
To say that about professionals who we have no information. We have a timeline of events. We have no medical records. We have no statements that are specific about the injury. There's just far too little information out there that are actual facts. Now, we can dig around and make up, assumptions on things and go from there, but there's no hard facts that we know that can lead to me saying, this is a medical staff issue. Now, if those facts came out and it was, then yeah, okay. But I don't see players suing the medical staff. I don't see players quoting it. Like, I just don't like the idea of throwing around like, these guys are doing medical malpractice, lock them away. Somebody told me that there needs to be an investigation by the MLB, by MLB, not the MLB. And I was just dumbfounded by that. Like, the team doesn't seem to think that, and the players aren't flying out of Cincinnati left and right and saying, oh my gosh, this medical staff, man, they're awful. So I think it's a combination of frustration and I'll just say it's stupidity. Like, I just don't get it.
I agree. I think the biggest issue is, and I think it's been this way for quite some time. There's been some famous quotes by the Reds, the avoid the peaks and valleys, where are you going to go? I think the issue might have something to do with a little bit of the PR. I think we're speaking a little bit, and when I say we, I mean our good friend David Bell at some points. I think he's speaking maybe a little bit too early before he knows what's actually going on. And then when that quote gets released, and we all saw the screenshots of all the CES timeline over the past week, and we've seen it, and we're like, David Bell says this, David Bell says that. Well, David Bell isn't a doctor. David Bell is just reporting what he may or may not know. And I think that's what's going on, and I think the PR might have maybe something more to do with this. And again, I'm not blaming it's just how it's been. I would have stopped all this injury discussion early on regarding CES, because now all the hope that he gave us is gone.
Okay. How about this, Elliot? We just don't get any information. Why not? Like, why do we as fans deserve to know all of the ins and outs of each injury? If you look at the NHL, in hockey, they say upper body, lower body. That's all the information they give out. And guess what? That's fine. Yeah. There's no reason for us to feel like we deserve some in-depth, let me see the x-rays, let me see the medical report. Like, in my opinion, they shouldn't tell us anything. They can tell us a player is injured. We don't know the timeline. Like, I don't know why we have to. It doesn't do anything for us. Like, yeah, it's nice to know, but look what it leads to. It just leads to a bunch of ridiculous claims. Like, if I was in charge of this, like, I just wouldn't put anything out. Like, hey, CS has an upper body injury. He'll be reevaluated. We're unsure of his timeline. Like, you don't have to give out any more information than that. And if I'm the Reds, like you said, with kind of the PR disasters they've had, I would just lean towards that. Like, hey, guess what? We're not going to tell you, and you don't deserve to know either way. Like, sorry, we don't owe you anything about injuries.
I agree with you, and I just think be as vague as you can. Don't give anybody false hope, and we'll see what happens there. I'm going to do real quick, Clay. Listen, I know you go on with our good friend Chad Brendel, and Chad taught me this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a short break, and you're going to like this. What's going to happen is for the radio people, it's a commercial break, but for us on YouTube, it's just 5 seconds of silence. We alter the timeline here. So we're going to take a break. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back with MLB and Reds contributor for baseball. See, now this is where I messed up, Clay. This is where I messed up. Just baseball. I knew I was going to mess it up at some point.
It's so tough to remember.
It is. I forgot the just right in front of it. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. And now we welcome on we continue to have on our good friend Clay Snowden from Just Baseball. Just Baseball, Elliot. Get it right. Just Baseball. He also covers the Detroit Tigers. Shout out to the Detroit Tigers. We were talking... Tigers stink, Clay. Any thoughts on the Tigers real quick?
Let's not get into that.
Okay, that's smart. Smart decision there. Will Benson, we were talking about the injuries, and one of those guys, Jake Fraley, he's been out. That means Will Benson's going to have to step up. At least that's what we think is going to happen this weekend against all right-handed pitchers. He hasn't been the guy that most of this fan base thought he was. I imagine that he's not been what he thought he was, Nick Kroll thought he was. He's been a massive disappointment this season. Obviously, last night was a little bit of a boost. 2 hits, a double, a couple RBIs. Will Benson, at what point do we say enough is enough and you send him down? Because last night was great. It's a great first step, taking the right direction on the quest to finding the Mendoza line. But as he continues to struggle this season, at what point do we say we just can't field him? When you strike out 45% of your at-bats, when you don't make contact with the baseball on a consistent basis, we can't have you up here. At what point do the Reds make a change?
Who's going to replace him? There's not the guy in the minor leagues who you say, this person has an obvious future going forward. And that doesn't mean that players don't deserve a chance or that someone like Blake Dunn, when healthy, shouldn't get at-bats. To me, it's, okay, what has a greater chance of happening? Will Benson being a long-term part of the future, or insert somebody from the Louisville Bats being a long-term piece of the future? And, I like Blake Dunn just fine. I think he's more of a platoon bat, kind of like a Benson, but I think Benson has the highest ceiling. And right now, I would not be playing Benson very much. Yeah, I would. Now, of course, the injuries make you force you to play him more. To me, it's okay. If the Reds are still in it, then I'm acquiring a outfielder of some kind. I don't even care if it's a Stuart Fairchild level. Like, I'm getting somebody else, and Benson's going down. If the Reds are out of it, I'm playing Benson a lot. And this is kind of sink or swim. I understand last year was good. Look at the expected stats. It was 100 points high. His slugging was 100 points higher than expected.
Yeah.
Which I know expected stats are kind of wonky, but everything was pointing towards, man, I just don't know if the player we saw in 23 is what's going to be going forward. And I kept saying that all off season. And then he comes in and it's a lot of swing and miss. And to me, it's okay. The Reds need to be serious. I know it may not be this year, but going forward, you just can't keep having every single player being a platoon player with these 3 asterisks as red flags. And like, maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe it'll click. Like, you can't have that many. I'm okay having one or, a player like that in the outfield.
Yeah.
But to have 3 of them, 4 of them, however many it is, like Martini coming in, oh, he's a 33-year-old AAA guy. Like, he kind of showed a good September and he can hit righties. And then here's another platoon and here's the asterisk and reasoning why we should believe. And here's all the red flags. I think it's time to kind of shore up the outfield with fewer what-ifs.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. And it's just been one of those things where hopefully they're able to fight through this season. And if they can get through it, we'll look for some serious changes next year in that outfield because Defensively, they haven't been there, and offensively, it's been a disappointment. And obviously, with the injuries to T.J. Friedel, we haven't really seen this outfield what it can be yet, what Nick Krall thought it could be. Moving on a little bit, a guy that has also been a little bit disappointing this season, Graham Ashcraft. He was marketed to be a part of the big three. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft were supposed to be that. Andrew Abbott has now entered that conversation for the big three. Graham Ashcraft, disappointing season this year. He gets sent down. His first start back since getting sent down, his worst start of the season. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel with Graham Ashcraft, or maybe is this the beginning of the end?
I think it's a bullpen for him. Like I just think that's what needs to happen. We saw how many starts last year of complete disaster, and then he came back and was good. And like, I just don't know how long we're gonna do. This is now season 3 of like, here's the good stretch of Graham Ashcraft. And when you really watch it, like, it might be fine, but it's not like he's always dominating. He does not get enough swing and miss. Like, I think it's just time to move him to the bullpen and go from there. I mean, I know that, like, Williamson's hurt, and, like, that doesn't help. But to me, I just don't see him as a starting pitcher that the Reds could use. If you want to move him off and he's the 5 for a team that has lower aspirations going forward, or maybe I need to adjust my goals and aspirations for the team going forward. But I just think that the Graham Ashcraft level starting pitcher as they head into next season.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I didn't want to do the David Bell thing today because it's exhausting and I hate talking about it.
I just did it yesterday too, and I probably went overboard.
And here's the thing: we got to keep doing it, Clay. As the season goes on, we just got to keep fighting through it. But I'm going to ask you the question: if this season doesn't go the Reds' way, and by all means, it kind of looks like it won't. Still a lot of time left. Will they move on from David Bell in the offseason after just extending him last season? Is there any world where the Reds and Phil Castellini and Nick Krall, they get together and they say, you know what, David, you're gone? Is there any scenario where that happens?
So this is predictive speaking, like what
Correct.
I think will happen. No, I don't think that they will. I just don't see it. There's nothing that tells me that they will. There's no evidence of past history that says, oh yeah, that's going to happen. I think it should happen. And it has more to do with just the same voice over and over and the same results on the field. I'm not even saying it's his fault. I'm not. How often do we see the head coach / manager get canned when it's not even all their fault? I will say, I thought that they needed a spark. I thought that they need somebody to kind of kick them in the ass sometimes. I even called as much for benching a player for not hustling or not paying attention. Like, send a message. And by the way, Aaron Boone benched Gleyber Torres, a well-established player for the New York Yankees, who are in first or second place. Like, it's not out of this world to think a manager can bench a player to send a message. So to me, I just want to see something different. There's nothing in the past that David Bell has done that makes me say the Reds can't afford to move on from him. He is so good. He is this, that, and the other. I'm overall like pretty indifferent. Like, he's fine. There's a lot of decisions I don't agree with, but it's not like I'm smarter than him or anything. To me, it's more of we just need a different voice, a different vibe, something to change in the clubhouse.
I agree. Yet again with Clay Snowden. Long term for the Reds, do we write this season off? Is this just a one-off thing? The injuries thing cursed us. It happens. Or is this something that the Reds have to look at and be like, this was a failed step towards where we're supposed to go? Last season, I would argue that the Reds were way ahead of schedule with what happened, and you come into this season with all these expectations and hopes and dreams. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be a contender in the NL Central. All of this, and then what happens this year, as we talked about this week, all of that has gone wrong. That could go wrong for the Reds. Pretty much has gone wrong this season. This wasn't the intention of Nick Krall. Nick Krall, this wasn't the roster that he built. This wasn't the roster David Bell was supposed to manage, but it's what happened. Do you believe that it'll come together next season and we'll finally be able to see that vision of what we're talking about, what Nick Krall has been talking about?
I don't think that this year was anything more than sniffing around, getting close to potentially making the playoffs. You think about how many young players and how many rookies there were projected to be in this lineup. Go look at the All-Star ballot and go down each one of those players' first and second years and see how it compares to kind of their prime years. And you'll understand that, like, it takes some time. They aren't at their peak. They aren't at the best players. They have a very high ceiling, Elly and all these other young stars, but it's going to take time. It's going to take some callousing as well. To me, 2024 was, let's see if we can crack the playoffs and get some experience, and we'll come back. And then 2025 is, a better year. Of course, we've covered all the reasons I have any in terms of my expectations going forward. Single difference. And in fact, I think Lodolo's been better than I thought. I think Green's been better than I thought. I think Abbott's been better than I thought. Like, you can kind of say, like, oh, the starting pitching is actually in a better spot. I'm a little bit more concerned about the farm system. It's not as strong as I thought it would be going into the season. But, hey, here comes the number 2 pick. It's going to come down to what we always say, and we can complain about it. But, the roster moves, like the upgrades. Is it going to be Jamer Candelario upgrades, or are they going to trade some of these players? Whatever it may be, they need another established player, and to me, that's the outfield. Like, if they can find a really good, it doesn't even have to be the best outfielder. It doesn't need to be a top 15 outfielder. You just need a good veteran established outfielder that's not so heavily worried about platoons, because once one guy goes down, you put Stuart Fairchild against righties, and then the value of Stuart Fairchild is diminished.
Yeah.
So to me, I think they're still on a good path. And anyone that expected it to all change in 1 year and accelerate into this run into the playoffs, they were dreaming.
I agree. I agree with you yet again. Final question for you, Clay. The Reds have lost 9 series after winning the first game of the series. Is that going to happen again? Are the Cardinals going to get 3 in a row and just destroy me this weekend?
No, they're not getting 3 in a row.
Okay.
I don't think the Cardinals are anything special. Like, I think that they're better than what a lot of fans on Twitter are giving them. I think last year was a down year, and this year they're kind of bouncing back a little bit. And they do have some talent, but what about that team makes you think that they're going to win 3 in a row? I just don't see it. I don't see the Reds winning 3 in a row against them either. This is likely going to be a split. Okay, maybe if the Reds were to win 3, like, great. The Reds are at a point they're going to have to start accelerating and not doing this like, oh, well, we can split this series and maybe we'll drop this one to a tough opponent, but maybe we'll win 2 of 3. Like, the Reds are not in position to do that. The Reds have to start winning in chunks if they want this season to have any chance at the playoffs. So to me, it's kind of like Reds, we're 1 month out of the deadline. Not that I think there would be big sellers or anything, but I mean, they've got to start establishing what type of team they are, and it could start right now with the series against the Cardinals.
I've been trying to say that for a while now. It's just they still don't have an identity yet. We know we have Elly, we know we have Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. We have some of the pieces. But do we have the key to unlock what we are going to be in the future? I don't know yet, but hopefully the Reds figure it out. Starting this weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals, the Reds tape Game 1. Clay, I can't thank you enough for coming on with me today. ESPN 1410 thanks you. Listen, this is 2 ESPN radio stations you've been on this week. Looks like Stephen A. might have a run for his money here. You might be Mr. Stephen A. here at the ESPN headquarters.
Last night I mixed in a appearance on a Tigers minor league report podcast. So, I mean, I'm all over the place, man.
You're everywhere. Clay Snowden, MLB and Reds contributor for Just Baseball. Also, as he just mentioned, he writes for the Tigers. No longer the Athletics. He wrote for the Athletics, but then the owners wanted to move the team to Sacramento in a 3,000-seat arena, and he said, I'm out. I can't do it anymore.
I sprinkle in an article here and there.
You sprinkle in an article there. But do they still have possums in Oakland? Is that still an issue in a possum? Do we know yet?
Okay. Believe it or not, that team has not corrected any issues in 10 years.
All right, that's it. That's Clay. Thank you very much for coming on. We are taking
Appreciate
a break.
y'all.
Thank you, Clay. We are taking a break. ESPN 1410 Wing AM, the best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. We are Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We're going to see you guys in just a couple of minutes for our final segment of the day.
Are we going to do ads?
Ads.
I think we got ads coming here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about ads.
Yep.
Ads. Let's start with Encore Technologies. They provide IT solutions for a data center world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
that's right, Jimbo. Productivity. The path to innovation begins here. Visit encore.tech. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And as always, we have to say thank you to Game Time, the Game Time app. They're a sponsor here of Chatterbox Sports. They've got lots of deals going on right now with Reds games coming up with the Tigers at $17. They have Red Hot Chili Peppers later, July 5th. They got some deals going on for Bengals tickets as well at the moment. New Zealand comes into town. So check it out. It's just 2 simple clicks, and you get to see exactly where you're sitting at. Fees and everything like that is also up front as well, so you're taking all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Casey.
That was wonderful.
Casey's Minute today?
Casey's Minute? Are you healthy enough for the Casey Minute?
Is he going to do another speech? Is it Coach Carter today?
Yes. Ooh, that would be fun. Do another speech. That speech was very funny
Is
yesterday.
Casey's Minute now just becoming movie speeches?
Please. What's the speech Dwight gave in The Office? We can get that up.
Yes.
I have no idea what that speech is.
The hands turn, the wheels. I don't know what it was, but it was very, very funny.
Sure.
Casey's Minute. The clock has started.
Casey Minute. I saw something very interesting that we hadn't really talking about on the show. I saw the top 20 most valuable players in the NFL based off of value, a stat that Pro Football Reference uses. Myles Garrett was number 1. Patrick Mahomes was 20. It only gave the top 20, but I just thought it was very interesting that they had Mahomes at 20. They had Brock Purdy at 10. It's another interesting one.
You're talking about like how valuable they are to a team as opposed to their contract?
I think so. I think that's what it's based off of.
I'd imagine that's
Otherwise,
what that means.
Oh, wow.
But-
this is a list.
But they have Dak Prescott at number 4, which doesn't make sense because
He's got a big contract.
he's
Gonna
got a
have to
big
figure out
contract
what the
too.
criteria for this list is. 'Cause
Yeah,
I can't figure it out.
They have Christian McCaffrey at 9. They have Fred Warner and Roquan Smith at 13 and 14.
$20 million
There's
linebacker?
not a Bengal on the top 20, which I thought was also very interesting.
That is
They have Jared Goff at 18 and Tua at 19.
And Patrick Mahomes at 20.
As we all know, those quarterbacks are better than Patrick.
Yeah,
Not better. They're just saying they're more valuable.
they're more
More
valuable.
More valuable.
They're more valuable to their team.
I mean, yeah.
I
What
guess.
would Detroit do without Jared Goff? If you
I don't
swap
know.
Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes, Detroit would be in a tough place.
Yeah, I don't know if he would fit our system. So
Yeah, I don't think he would either. That was the Casey
The
Minute.
system being losing.
Heyo.
winning now.
That was the Casey Minute. We're going back to the radio. So 5 seconds of silence. Boop. Welcome on in, ESPN 1410. Everybody, thanks for listening today. It's a beautiful Friday.
It is.
The sun is shining. We all feel good in here. Nobody's sick, really. I mean, 2 of us are kind of sick. But nonetheless, we're all healthy and good to go. So We are going to end our show with our final segment. There it is. There's the words, Elliot. You finally found them. With, I believe, again, this is where I just go to Reed. I just go to Reed, and Reed walks us through what we're talking about in the final segment.
Yeah, so every year, on average, every year, there are 6 teams that make the NFL postseason. So there's 14 teams that make the NFL postseason. 6 of them did not make it the previous year. I don't have who made it last year off the top of my head. It was the Browns, the Steelers, it was the Texans. In the NFC, it was the Lions, it was the Rams, and it was the Packers. So there we go. Right off the
good work.
Right off the rip. Bang. Those are the 6 teams that make it. So on average, 6 teams will make the postseason that did not make it last year. So we started speculating about which 6 teams we think will make the postseason this year, this upcoming year, that didn't make it last year. And Jacob, I'll let you lead off this segment as what teams do you think will make the postseason and why?
I'll start it off with the easiest one, and one I think will be on everyone's list in here, the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously missed the playoffs last year with Joe Burrow's injury. If he can stay healthy this year, I think everyone in the world expects them to make the playoffs. Number 2 for me is a very, very similar situation, a team I expected to make the playoffs last year and didn't because of a quarterback injury. New York Jets.
Really?
I think the New York Jets are going to be a playoff team this year in the AFC. I think Aaron Rodgers still has a year or 2 left in him as a top quarterback in the league. If he can stay healthy, I think the Jets are going to be a playoff team. My third and final team in the AFC.
I'll do my AFC after this.
Okay. Third and final team in the AFC is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay.
I have a lot of faith in Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback in the league off of pure talent alone. I know he hasn't really won, and it hasn't translated yet to playoff success, but his statistics are impossible to ignore. He's been incredible. I think the Chargers, with Jim Harbaugh at the helm, that's about as big of an improvement as you can make over Brandon Staley, and I think the Chargers are going to be competitive in year 1.
It's the biggest improvement you can make over Brandon Staley. Yeah, when we did this segment, there are a lot of good teams in the AFC. We've talked about this for a while. There are a lot of good quarterbacks. So it's easy to look at teams in the AFC and go like, oh, yeah, the Jets, they won 7 games with no quarterback play last year. They get Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be better. They're going to make the postseason. It's easy to look at teams like the Colts who won 9 games, and they said, hey, they're missing their franchise quarterback who looked really good when he played. AR, when they get him back, they're going to be better. It's easy to look at the Chargers and go, well, they're going to get healthy Herbert. They're going to get Jim Harbaugh. And can they make the postseason? But then you got to remember who's not making it because there's only 7 spots. You can't have 12 teams from the AFC making the postseason, so you got to start thinking which teams are not going to make it. I think it is likely that the Steelers won't make it. Even with an upgrade at quarterback, I think it's likely to say that the Browns are going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to win 11 games again. A healthy candidate is the Dolphins.
That was my third.
Yeah.
Is the Dolphins. But from the AFC, I also have 3 teams making the postseason that didn't make it last year, and the first and foremost is one that I think we all concede. They are contenders for a reason. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. As long as Joe Burrow's healthy, they will make the postseason. They will be true contenders for the Lombardi Trophy at year's end. They won 9 games with a healthy quarterback for all of about 4 of them. So the Cincinnati Bengals are number 1. The one team that I don't think anybody else is going to have on their list, this is a team that went 8-3 last year before their quarterback got banged up, and that's my Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Jags, I think they still take that division.
Yep.
I still think they take that division.
And
the reason I think that is because I think that we're overvaluing what the Texans are. They've made some great moves. They had a great year last year. I think they take a step back. I think the Jags win that division. So I have them winning the South. And then the final team is the Chargers because Justin Herbert's a phenomenal quarterback. He's one of the best in the league. He's a top 5-6 quarterback in the league. Now he's got a good quarterback, or a good coach, someone that is going to elevate that franchise, and I think the Chargers will be right back in the thick of things. With that division being a little low, other than the Chiefs, I think the Raiders aren't going to be very good. I think the Broncos are going to be terrible. So give me the Chargers to make a wild card. That's my AFC teams.
I agree with most of you guys. I think the Chargers are going to make the postseason this year, first year under Harbaugh. So I think he's going to, again, no disrespect to my guy Staley, but woof. Maybe the worst coach of all time. The Bengals are going to make the postseason this year. The Steelers are going to drop out. They are going to fall off a little bit. And I do agree with Reed, actually. I do think the Jaguars are going to win that division because I do think the Texans of 2024, I think, are going to be similar to the Reds of 2024. I think they came in a little bit early. They came in hot. You think they're really, really good, and I think they're due for a major letdown season. I'm not saying they're going to win 4 games, but I will say this. They're going to probably win around 9 games, and I don't think it's going to be good enough to make the postseason this year. Jaguars probably win 10 or 11.
Definitely need double digits in the AFC to make the playoffs, I think.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Not the same
you needed
case in
it
the
this
NFC.
year.
Not
You needed
the
it this
same.
year. There was at one point a scenario in which an 11-6 team,
Right.
like 2 weeks left in the year, there was a scenario where 11-6 team did not make the postseason. Because I think that's what the Bengals were projecting, because they didn't have the tiebreaker over any of the wild card teams, and if they would have gotten 11 wins, they would have needed some help to make the postseason. Jimbo, you got 3 teams in the AFC real quickly.
I have 3 teams as well. I obviously have the Bengals. I think whenever Joe Burrow's on the field, I think that's a team that should win 11 games. I also have the Jets. Very similar situation. I think they won 7 games last year, like you had talked about without Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, this year they're also going to have a 3rd place schedule. So I think that's going to push them over the edge. I think that is going to knock the Dolphins into 3rd place. I think the Bills still win that division because Josh Allen is great, but I think the Jets grab a wild card spot. And then the last one I have is also the Jaguars. I think they're going to win the South.
I'm surprised other people picked the Jags.
I don't love Trevor Lawrence, and I think I've said that before on here, but I do think that was a team that really collapsed at the end of last year, and C.J. Stroud got very hot, and he's obviously a great quarterback. But I do think I don't really want to jump on the Texans hype train just yet. I want to see him. I want to see Stroud do really well again this year, but I think the Jags are going to take that division, and I think that they're going to make the playoffs too.
I've heard a lot of people talk very highly of the Colts. I think that's a trendy pick. If you know football, you see that the Colts are right there. They're going to be really good. I'm not buying that. I'm not. I'm not. Once again, I saw that they won 9 games last year. I know they did that without their star quarterback, but I'm just not fully buying it because I think that division's very good. Casey, you want to put your hat in the
I'll
ring?
throw my hat in the ring here. Bengals is an obvious choice. I'm not going to go over the reasons why. My second team is the Colts. You also forget that they were without Jonathan Taylor for like half their season too. Actually, more than that. So that's a huge part of their offense that was missing.
Their better quarterback, their better running back is now in Cincinnati.
True. That's true. So I think that they have an underrated defense. I think that offense is yet to be completely unlocked. Second year with Anthony Richardson at the helm. Didn't get a full season, but the 4 or 5 games that he did play, he looked really good. Looked like that Eagles Super Bowl type offense where it was just really hard to stop. I like that team a lot. And then I think the Jets, they're my 3rd team. It's more because I don't like the other teams. I don't like Miami next year. I think Pittsburgh is also one of those teams that could probably fall. I also think like the Ravens, they might have a chance to fall out too. They lost a lot of pieces. I kind of agree with you, Reed. They lost a lot of defenders this year. Despite what their offense might be, I think that their key is defense. So that being said, my choices: Bengals, Colts, Jets. Those are the 3 I think.
The Jets quite literally could not have a worse offense, and they won 7 games.
Right.
And that division's going to get a little worse with Miami, and the Bills lost their entire safety room.
But
the Bills are still going to make the postseason.
I disagree with the Jets, and I disagree with the Colts. The Colts, again, they were successful last year. Both are going to have to bank on one thing, and that's their quarterback being healthy. I find that is going to be an issue with both of these teams. Anthony Richardson proved that he was a running quarterback last season, and what happens with running quarterbacks, usually at some point during the season.
You win 2 MVPs.
There's that too. But at some point during the season, you might lose them. And the difference this year is Gardner Minshew did an admirable job leading that team to almost a postseason berth. I know if onlys and buts. Joe Flacco, I love my guy Joe Flacco. I don't think Joe Flacco in a 16-game season is going to be able to replicate what Gardner Minshew did, and that's keep the Colts afloat. The Jets, on the other hand, I think people are writing off the Dolphins a little bit too early. I know what happens when it gets cold outside, but at the same time, it doesn't get cold outside for a little bit. They're gonna play good football until September, October, November, and if they do their damage until December, it doesn't really matter what happens when it gets cold in terms of making the postseason. And you laughed at my little stat there, thank you. But here's the thing: I disagree with both of those just because I don't think the Dolphins are going to fall off, and I don't think the Colts are going to be able to survive another Anthony Richardson injury.
One team that I don't have the confidence to say yet because I haven't really done a ton of research into them, but it kind of makes sense after you brought it up, and I just had this great idea. Minshew went to the Raiders, and the Raiders went 8-9 last year.
Did he go 8-9?
I mean, if he's as good as he was
What are we
with the
talking
Colts, they upgraded on their defensive line.
They lost
Play
their best player.
They play 4 games against. They play
What
2
are
games
they-
against the
Josh
Chiefs and
Jacobs.
2 games against the Chargers.
No, that's not their best player. It's Max Crosby.
Best offensive player. I mean, Josh Jacobs was the entire offense last
Yeah,
year.
yeah, but if you have serviceable quarterback play, like that's it. That's more than.
I think the
having a
Raiders
great
are losing
record.
4 games right away to the Chargers and the Chiefs. So
Yeah,
that
I
bears you
don't
in the
believe in
division
the
anyway.
Raiders whatsoever.
And
Yeah,
I think
this is
Aiden O'Connell's going to probably start at least half the season.
AOC.
Out of all the teams that were eliminated, there's only 2 teams that had a positive point differential: the Jags and the Raiders.
Why do the Raiders have a positive point differential, Casey?
I feel like there was a game
The
that happened.
63-7 game against the Chargers
I
with
feel like
Easton Stick.
I feel like there was a game that happened there.
Like
yeah.
that's not exactly
That
a
did
good
happen.
That was
barometer.
against the Chargers. That was
That
against
game-
your Chargers.
with no Herbert, no head coach, and no GM.
They stink. Chargers stink.
We'll see.
NFC.
Let's go to the NFC, and I go out on a little bit of a limb here with some NFC
Oh, I do
picks
too.
because it's harder. It's harder to predict what's going to happen here. I think we know that the 49ers are going to make it. I think we believe that the Eagles and I think the Cowboys are probably
Lions.
pretty safe. So where do those last 3 spots are? First one I'll go. I'll predict the NFC South. I think the Falcons are going to be good with Kirk Cousins. I think they're going to win that division. That's a very bad division. It's the worst in football. And I think they're going to. I think Kirk Cousins is going to elevate the Falcons enough to win the division. I don't think they're going to be contenders by any stretch of the imagination. I do believe that they will win that division. And then this is where I get a little weird. I believe in Caleb Williams. I believe in the situation that they have created for Caleb Williams, and this is where I get a little weird here. I think their defense has improved enough to make the postseason. That's a very bad defensive conference. The Lions had some questions in the secondary. I think that the Packers were bad defensively. I think that the Bears could have a better defense in that division. I think that the Bears will win 10 games. I think Caleb Williams will immediately be an impact player, and I think they will make the postseason. I'm not going to fully say that they'll go out and win that division because the Lions are still very, very good. I just think that they will be a double-digit win team, and I think Caleb Williams will immediately elevate that situation. I will say also, though, if it doesn't start well, I think it might collapse. I think it might collapse
snowball.
very, very quickly. And then the final team, I'm going to take the other top draft pick. I think the Commies.
I like it.
I think the
I like
Commies
that.
have a very good situation as well. And if I need to make one hot take, it's that the Commanders will make the postseason. And it's just because I believe in Jane Daniels. I believe in what they're doing there. And I believe in the situation that they have kind of crafted around Jaden Daniels. And I think the NFC is not very good. So give me the Commies to be my surprise team.
NFC stinks. Before we go to Jacob, we're going to wrap this show up. So if you would like to hear Jacob's thoughts, my thoughts, Jimmy and Casey's thoughts as well, come on over to the YouTube side for the after show. You'll be able to hear those there. We're going to wind down our show today. That has been it. Thank you very much for coming in on a Friday and watching us and listening to us. It means the world to us. We're going to have a new host, Justin Kinner, coming in on Monday with a new intro. Casey's done a phenomenal job with this intro. We've seen it. It is the best intro that we've had on this show yet. That is not me exaggerating. That is a fact. So get excited for it. ESPN 1410 Wing AM, have a pleasant Friday. Have a great weekend. And for those on the YouTube, we're not done. So stay with us here. And we're back. All right. NFC, I agree with Reed. I think the NFC stinks. I mean, I truly do. I think it stinks.
So
I think
bad.
there's I think
top heavy.
I think there's 3 teams that are good, and I think the rest are bleh.
And I think it's just the quarterbacks because I think their rosters are I don't think their rosters are much beneath where the AFC rosters are. In fact, I think that the 49ers and the Lions have 2 of the best, and the Eagles have 3 of the best rosters in the league. The problem is they just don't have the same quarterback play. They don't have Patrick Mahomes. They don't have Lamar Jackson. They don't have Josh Allen. They don't have Joe Burrow. They don't have Justin Herbert. Like if you look at the best quarterback in the NFC is Stafford.
I'd say Dak.
Golf, Dak, like it's like we're talking about that next tier. All the top tier quarterbacks are in the AFC, so their rosters aren't worse. The quarterbacks are worse.
That's fair.
For the NFC, for me, a couple similarities to Reed, which I didn't necessarily expect. I think Falcons is probably going to be on a lot of people's lists. That division's terrible. Baker Mayfield won it just above 500 last year. Tom Brady won it below 500, so I think this is the best quarterback we've seen in that division in a little bit now. And I think they're going to take that division pretty easily with a really good roster, weapons-wise. And then number 2, the same again, the Bears. I think this is one of if not the best situations for a rookie quarterback of all time. These weapons are absurd. The O-line's gotten way better. The defense was top 10 last year after they got Montez Sweat. I think it's going to be more of the same this year. I think that team's floor is 10 wins. I think they're going to get up to 11 or 12. Their over on wins is one of my favorite bets of the entire year. I think they're going to push to win the division, and I'm going to sprinkle that as well. My third team, kind of like you, went off the beaten path a little bit. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals. I absolutely love Kyler Murray. I think he's a top 12 quarterback in this league. We've seen him play at a very, very high level when he's been healthy and had reasonable weapons around him. They draft Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think is immediately a top 15 receiver in the entire league. I think that defense is going to take a big step. They've put a lot into the O-line with high draft picks this year and a first-round draft pick last year. I really think the Cardinals are going to take a massive, massive step and sneak in with that third wildcard spot in the NFC.
I like that. I'm real quick. I'm just going to inside baseball. I'm making the chat power rankings right now. My NFC teams, I agree with Reed and Jacob that the Falcons are going to get in. I think that division is terrible. It's going to be a waste of all of our time. They're going to win maybe 9 games, and they're going to get in. And truly spectacularly, I don't care. So that team's not winning a game anytime soon, or playoff game, anytime soon. But saying that, outside of that, I do agree that the Eagles are going to fall off. I think at some point the Eagles are going to collapse. This might be the end of the dynasty over there with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback.
Dynasty?
I think dynasty meaning they've been a decent team for a while. Outside of that, I don't see a lot. I know they've upgraded their team. I just don't see it. I think the Cowboys run that division, unfortunately. The Giants are going to be terrible forever. I think the Commanders are going to sneak in. I really do. I think the Commanders are going to have a better season this year, and they are going to find a way to sneak in. Outside of that, I do think that not the Bears, but the Packers are going to be a good playoff team this season, and I think they're going to get in and again maybe beat the Dallas Cowboys again. So those are my 3 teams to make the NFC postseason.
All right. Do you want to go first, Jimbo, or do you want me?
Sure. Yeah, I'm struggling a lot with this right now because I do think that the NFC is extremely top-heavy compared to the AFC, which is obviously a lot of depth. But at the same time, the teams that were bad in the NFC last year were, like, really bad. Like, I'm struggling to find 3. I think, obviously, I'm going to go with the Falcons just because they're favored to win that division. They add Kirk Cousins, and
that's the easy. That's the easiest
it's
pick.
quarterback. I think that's
they're
the one.
pretty heavy favorites to make it.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that pretty much everyone is going to pick across the country. I think that I don't know, like it pains me saying the Bears because I can't stand the Bears. I think that they'll go around 9-8. Which could sneak them in. I think the Commanders is an interesting one. I think they added a lot. If Jaden Daniels can lead that offense to be an exciting offense and score a lot of points, I think that is a team that can win games. I think their defense is pretty bad, but I think I could see the Commanders sneaking in. So I'll say the Commanders, the Falcons, and the Bears.
Much like you guys, I've been very hot on the Falcons since last year. I did the exact same thing with the Lions the year previously before that.
You were a Ritter believer.
And so I just predict these teams a year early, in all honesty. That's basically what it boils down to. Falcons are going to take care of business in NFC South. I really love what the Bears are doing. I agree with you guys on that part. I'm not going to reiterate all the same points again. But I have a different team than all of you for my third team. And that's the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Rams got worse on defense. They lost their Hall of Fame defensive tackle in Aaron Donald. Seattle improved their defense, and they got a defensive head coach. They were one of the worst defenses statistically last year, and I was really shocked by that considering how much I like their roster. They got Leonard Williams. They got Byron Murphy now. Boy, Amafe was really good. I like their secondary a lot. I think he's going to get that team right where they need to be. They're going to be defensive, heavily invested team. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And I think that makes it to where my guy Geno Smith will shine, because he'll actually be able to run a functioning offense and not have to throw 50 times a game. That's not what he's good at. So that being said, they are also 9-8 last year. They're one game away from making the playoffs. I think that's a solid team right now.
Seattle's a good team. That's definitely exciting. And like you said, the Rams definitely got worse. But a first-year head coach and a new OC, that first-year head coach being defensive-minded, I don't think that's the best for a quarterback like Geno Smith, who does need a system around him to be comfortable. I think the new system and stuff is going to set them back a little bit. But I think the roster is certainly trending in the right direction. And I like Mike McDonald.
I think the Seahawks are also a few games away, like a few bad games away from just like trying something else other than Geno.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it'll take too much to topple that down and be like, hey, let's try something else out there. If Geno doesn't play well, which is a big if. Did you say the Cardinals in your?
I did.
Yeah, I was going to say the Cardinals. I think you and I both agree that Kyler Murray might be the most slept-on quarterback in the league, and that's because he's been hurt. The Cardinals
Play
haven't
some
been
video games.
Yeah, haven't been very good. Other than that year, they started out 9-0 or whatever they started. But Kyler Murray is a guy that I'd like to see go to a different team, because that roster is very bad. But I think Kyler Murray is very, very good. So yeah, there's some interesting picks in the NFC. We also got to remember that there's always one team that like doesn't move the needle at all. That makes it like the Steelers last year, to where they're like, yeah, they made the postseason. Yeah, they won 10 games, but no one actually expects them to. And I'm saying that in fairness of Casey's pick.
For sure.
Because I think, like, if the Seahawks make it, everyone knows they're not true contenders. But, like, yeah, they could win 9 games and make it. They could win 10 games and make it. And it's just that happens every
and that's
single
what
year.
I
don't think
Yeah,
they're Super Bowl
Right,
contenders
for sure.
by any stretch.
I think most of us picked kind of sexy picks, which was like, if the Bears look good, I think they'll look really good.
I 100% agree.
If the AFC
Falcons.
teams?
Oh.
The Falcons I don't think will look very good. I think like if the Chargers look good, they'll look pretty good. If the Jags look good, I think they'll look pretty good.
I worry about both those teams' perimeter weapons, Jags and Chargers. Chargers
That's fair.
obviously getting rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen.
I agree.
Jags got rid of Calvin Ridley, who was their best receiver last year, and replaced him with Gabe Davis, who we've seen be incredibly up and down in his career. And then you're relying on a rookie, Brian Thomas, to be your number
Right.
one. That does scare me a little bit. But I think the Jags are going to be good. It's just that division is going to be really tough.
Who's your one pick for the team to fall off the most? Because I think there's several candidates for this.
I think the easiest team to pick to fall off is the Browns. But if you're talking about fall off, like in wins,
I'm
it's not
saying
gonna be
like
that
I
drastic.
think even last year they won 11 games. I don't think anyone really took the Browns making a deep run in the playoffs seriously. I guess the candidates that I'll give, if you need me to give you, like
I'll say Philly.
Bills, Dolphins, Cowboys,
Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs, so I guess that'd be the answer.
Philly. Yeah, those are all candidates. Like I don't think anybody, like the 49ers are still going to make the postseason.
For sure.
They're still going to be very good. The Lions, I'll be incredibly shocked if they don't make the postseason. I do think one of those Cowboys Phillies or Cowboys Eagles won't make.
Yeah, I
like
think Eagles going to take a massive.
or if they
step
do,
back.
they scrape by. They just scrape it.
I don't know. I thought.
Eagles roster's bad.
You think it's bad?
Yeah, I think they're paying a running back who doesn't stay healthy. They're paying a running back who can't throw the ball. They're paying a lot of 30-year-old O linemen. They're paying a defense.
Just
with,
lost their
Yeah,
Hall of
I-
Fame.
I
They
center.
lost a Hall of Fame
Out of-
center. They lost Brandon Graham.
Out of the
they lost
NFC East,
Fletcher
I think
Cox.
the Eagles are definitely the ones that are going to fall off the most. I just don't know by how much. Like
I don't think the Eagles are a double-digit win team. I guess I'll put it that way.
Really?
Yeah, how much does Jason Kelsey matter? I think he matters a lot.
Right.
So I think
How much does Fletcher Cox matter?
he matters a lot.
Right.
Um,
Lane Johnson hasn't been healthy in years.
Right. I agree. I think out of all those teams, I think the Eagles are probably the most likely. And plus, the momentum was already on the downswing for them to probably not make it in the playoffs. So I agree with that. And then, like I said already, like the Rams, I feel like are a clear-cut choice for that sort of candidacy just because how
sure.
big of a factor Aaron Donald is. But
Another year of Stafford's a year older.
Yeah.
Like all these things, yeah.
You talk about teams in that division falling off. If you're pointing at the Rams, I mean, I guess if you don't believe in the Seahawks and they're going to be the same as they were last year, I know you said they're going to make the playoffs, but just bear with me. And the Cardinals then set up pretty well.
Yeah, they do.
In the NFC West, if you think the Rams are going to fall off and you don't believe in the Seahawks, so that's kind of where I'm at with the Cardinals.
I
It's
think
that schedule is going to look pretty easy.
I think the Bills could honestly be a team. Like I think the Bills will win the division.
That defense,
I
took a
think
big hit.
They lost everything on their defense pretty much.
They still
And
have Von Miller.
They have a tough schedule. They play at the Dolphins the second week
get
of the
first
year,
place.
which is
that's
probably a
tough.
loss.
Yep.
They play at the Ravens, at the Texans, at the Jets. They play the Chiefs, the 49ers at home. They play at the Lions. Like I mean, it's a tough schedule.
The difference between the Bills and why I'm not ready to count out the Bills as opposed to the Eagles or the Cowboys is because the Eagles and the Cowboys have Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott who are
Right,
fine and
the
good
Bills.
quarterbacks. It's not Josh Allen.
Right.
The Bills have Josh Allen, who my favorite thing about Josh Allen, we do this every year where we come in knowing he's great. He starts out great, and then there's like a 3-week stretch where he turns the ball over like 12 times in 3 games, and everyone's like, well, this is why you can never trust Josh Allen. And
15.
And then the rest of the year, he's fantastic again, but at the back of your mind, you're like, well, I don't know. He turns the ball over a lot. Like Josh Allen's fantastic.
His touchdown to turnover ratio is number 1 in the league, and he leads the league in turnovers. He
That's true.
scores at
Oh,
such
it's
an
insane.
unbelievable rate that it quite literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's also like if their secondary is as bad as it could be, it could be a serious problem.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna play teams that can throw the ball.
And obviously, Diggs was trending down in his time in Buffalo, but that's still a massive loss. And you lost Gabe Davis as well. I mean, that receiving core is
And-
nobody's. You're going to rely on James Cook, your running back, to probably be your most reliable underneath receiver.
And at the same time, they were the 2 seed last year, but like barely.
Right.
Like,
I am worried about Josh Allen doing too much next year.
I don't disagree. He's a candidate for me that's going to get hurt.
I don't think I should be ever worried about Josh
boy.
Allen because he's incredible. But if there is a team that was very good or that has been very good the last couple of years that could see a fall off, I think the Bills are definitely one.
Everett makes a great point.
They
in the
lost
chat
their
that-
entire secondary because of the Von Miller contract.
Yeah, Everett makes a great point in the chat that Josh Allen's current state is only been since they got Stephon Diggs. Like there was a lot of questions about Josh Allen his first couple years in the league.
that's
They get Stephon Diggs and he becomes the bona fide MVP candidate that we always talk about. So I'm really worried about regression for him through the air next year.
That's fine. That's fair. What's interesting about Josh Allen too, we're talking about he's not impervious, but he's a big guy, and that's
sure.
why he's never been hurt.
Absolutely.
It's 'cause,
Absolutely.
like when you want a quarterback build, you want it to be Josh Allen. You want the 6'5", 200, the Cam Newton size,
But like
right?
you said, talking about Elly, I believe, you're not injury prone until you get hurt. Josh Allen takes one bad hit, then all of a sudden he's injury prone.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Before we get into chat power rankings, it's Brandon Phillips' birthday. Happy birthday, that dude BP.
That dude BP.
Does he have the most aura
Yeah,
of
he does.
any
Yeah, he
Reds
does.
player in your lifetime?
Yeah, he does. Listen, I mimicked my game after him when I was in the field. I thought I was a very good defender in youth baseball, and I did that because of him. I like to be cool. I wanted to go out there and have fun while playing defense in a sport that a lot of people don't think is fun. So yeah, Brandon Phillips inspired me. I know he's Jacob's favorite player to put on a Reds uniform. He's my favorite player to put on a Reds uniform. I don't know about Casey and Jimmy because they're Tigers fans, and Casey just got into being a Reds fan, so maybe not over there. But I will say this: Brandon Phillips has did a lot of good for the fandom. I know there's been a funny moments, I think, with him and I think C. Trent. I don't know what was going on there, but there's been a couple memorable moments of BP's career that I'll never forget. And happy birthday to the GOAT, Lexington legend. He's a Lexington legend as well.
Yeah, I think anyone.
Is he the most famous Lexington legend ever?
Yes.
Is he
Over
not?
Roger Clemens?
Probably not. No. I mean,
he had that
as
one
soon
right.
as he asked that question, I knew he had
Yeah, I
someone in
should-
his back pocket.
yeah, I
He's
should-
Pitched 3 innings for the
Love
Legends
that.
I should have ignored it.
Love
because his son was the catcher.
I think for anyone, for anyone our age, 25 and younger or so, 27 and younger or so, I think BP is your favorite player. I mean, obviously Votto, Reds fans. Votto's your favorite player if you want to look at the stats. Obviously, he's been great. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
You know what's crazy for Joey Votto? I don't think he was a lot of people's favorite player. I know.
I don't
there's-
either. I think the last couple of years, Kinner wants to make fun of the TikToks and stuff. I think that's what bumped him up
Yep.
to number one for a lot of
100%.
people when he became more personal with the media.
100%.
This city, other than Joe Burrow, has a problem with best players. This city has a problem with they hate their best player.
You're not wrong.
They certainly criticize him, and
Bengals, not as much. Loved AJ Green, loved Geno Atkins. Andy was never the best player.
they didn't like Andy.
Carson and Chad didn't like those guys. When Chad was playing, he was not beloved. The old heads, shut up and play. Act like you've been there before. Act like you've been in the end zone.
Once he
before.
changed it to Ocho Cinco, I think is where it went downhill. But
Again, not 85.
correct. Very funny. But that's it. Happy birthday to Brandon Phillips, that dude BP. All right, chat power rankings. I will hear no complaints about these chat power rankings.
None.
This is just for this week. So if you were great last week, very sorry. Very sorry. This is this week. New week. Honorable mention. We have Blackmore, Roger, Ron, Mousecop, Ackley, Houday. Mousecop probably would have been top 5 if his burners didn't come at me this week. That's on you. The rest of them, good job, everybody. Blackmore also bashes me, or else he'd be in the top 5. Roger, I'll tell you what, Roger, you keep this up. You're going to be in my top 5 next time I do it. Houday's awesome. Ackley, we saw Ackley at the FC game. He kicked us out of the stadium, but that's okay. And Ron, as we all know, Ron has been one of our most loyal viewers over the past year and a half or so. So first honorable mention group, there you go. Second honorable mention group. Colin, Cincy B, AJ, CJ, Jordan, Molly, Randy. Thank you guys very, very much. You guys are awesome. I know Colin's been somewhat new to the chat over the past month and a half or so. It's been awesome to see Cincy B as well. Randy's been a Twitter staple. Molly's a staple. Jordan, CJ, staples as well. Love you. I will say this. I'm going to mention this right now. I left 2 names off, Nate Seltzer and Drew. They weren't in the chat this week, and I know both were for very, very good reasons. They would have been on this had they been here, but again, they weren't this week. We still love Drew, and we love Nate, but I couldn't make room for them this week for this very specific week. Have to throw it in. I have to throw it in so I don't get yelled at. All right, next up, number 5 to start the top 5, Harrow or Haro. We still don't know. That's the best part about it. We still don't know. I would need to meet him, and he'd have to tell me, and then I would know. He can say it how...
He types it out, H-A-R-O.
He can type it every single time, and I'll still do Harrow, Haro, Harrow, Haro. Doesn't matter to me. I still love him. And this week's number 5 on the chat rankings. Number 4, Everett. Everett is our guy. Everett is our Ross Ram. We love him. And hashtag Ramley. Hashtag Ramley to Everett.
Love you, Everett.
Number 3, Chase Wellman. Chase Wellman continues to be a staple of this chat, especially over the past couple of weeks. Chase, thank you very much for being a member. We love you very much. Let's go, Chase. Number 2, Justin Edgel. Justin Edgel, it's been a back-and-forth week for you, buddy. It's been a back-and-forth week, but I remember the very first time I put you on this ranking, my ranking, it was after you had an argument with Tom. But what happened? We forgive each other and we move on. So, Justin, your picture down there is still Tom. You're our number 2 guy, and we might know who number 1 guy is, but you're our number 2 guy for sure. Justin, hell of a week by you. Showed out, showed up. Way to go. Number 1. Do I need to say anything?
No.
Do I need to say anything? He's there. He's always there. You close your eyes, and he's right behind you. That's what Mark Fetters is. He is always near, no matter what you are, where you are, when you are. He is right beside you, cheering you on, and that is what Mark Fetters has been for us. Also, it's probably perhaps the greatest Twitter following improvement I've seen over the span of a year. I think he's at 3,000 Twitter followers, all Ohio State slappies. I don't know how Fetters did it. It's probably because he has tweeted a record number. I think he's up to 100,000 tweets. I am not kidding. 100,000 tweets over the span of 1 year. But we love Mark Fetters. This is our guy, and well-deserving of number 1 on the rankings this week.
Massive omission.
Uh-oh. Who is it?
Brian B?
No, I would have...
Brian B.
I'll tell you what.
Come on. Back-to-back.
No, causing a catastrophe. He's second to dead last, and we have... what is Blackmore saying? Elly, eating that cricket will be the only way to begin the road to forgiveness. That's true. Brian B. is dead last. Dead last. But thank you, Brian B., for watching.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. I forgot to do the whoop whoops this week.
It's okay.
Those are our chat power rankings. Tasden, you're right. Mousecop Tasden did not make... I forgot Alex Wallace. Son of a... Alex.
That's bad.
Hand up.
Whoop, whoop.
Alex, this is actually going to go into a separate category called 2.5. Alex, you are the 2.5 best member chatter of the week. thank you very much for watching. Hand up. To be fair, I go through the names when I do these for today's date, and if I can't see your name over the past 30 minutes of chats, I don't put you in. So that's really my strategy for doing this. Alex, you are very, 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 very good. Thank you very much for supporting us. This is the last show ever. People are saying it's the last show ever.
It is.
Any thoughts? Any goodbyes? What was your favorite moment of this iteration?
That's true.
What was
The
your
teases.
What was your
The teases were always good.
Teasing the new look, the new looks.
Yeah, I liked it too.
My favorite iteration was the first table.
RM, I forgot you too. Mr. Mo, I forgot you too. This is where I don't like doing chat power rankings. I'm gonna leave it up to somebody else next time. I forget people and then I feel horrible.
Or he just scrolls the list and writes them all down. So.
Yeah, I mean that's true. RM, Mr. Mo, thank you very much. I love you guys all. But yes, we were supposed to knock down some walls, Roger. That is what we were. This wall right here, I believe, was supposed to come down.
Oh.
In the first iteration of this show, but we elected to keep it up because we knew in the back of our mind we'd get that guy, and we found him, Justin Kinner.
I can't wait to tease the new look after the new look happens.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
How close do you think we are to another new look?
Never.
That's good. I like
Never
that.
ever.
I like that.
Kinner forever. Kinner for always.
Print the t-shirts.
Kinner for all.
Never
Kinner for
ev-
us.
never
Kinner for
ever,
you.
Kinner
Never
forever.
ever.
Kinner for Jimbo. Jimmy Kinner.
Never ever Kinner forever.
Never ever can.
Well, no, we would want Kinner forever, not so
You don't want Kinner?
forever Kinner forever.
No, but Reed said never ever Kinner forever.
But that would be
I was saying there was a period. There was a period.
Oh,
He said, "When's the next?"
So let's do.
Never
I said
ever.
never. Period.
Let's do always
forever.
always together. Kinner forever.
I like that.
Kinner forever. Kinner for all. Kinner for you. Kinner for me. Kinner for Drew P. Balls.
What was your guys' favorite? There's a guy named Drew P. Balls. BAWHLS. I believe is how Mouse Cop spells it in one of his banners. So shout out to Drew.P.BAWHLES.
Shout out
Drew P.
Gaggins
Balls.
as well.
I bet Drew P. Balls might make an appearance in this chat in the last 4 minutes. Something tells me. Something tells me that he might show up here.
Oh man.
We'll see. Mouse Cop says that's not him.
We are gonna
but-
do Quiplash after this show.
Quiplash.
Quiplash.
Members Quiplash. I was gonna say. Oh yeah. What was your guys' favorite moment of the debate last night?
I wanted to keep my mental sanity, so I didn't watch.
You missed a great comedy
I don't know
show.
what he said, and he doesn't either. Is the greatest quote of all
I
time.
went and watched the Frank Wright Experience Notorious B.I.G. tribute here at River's Edge, and it was fantastic. Oh my God. I saved up the bullet of I can rap every word to Party and Bullcrap by Biggie, and my wife didn't know that. Learned that when I was like 13, and I mean, talk about impressing your wife.
Why is it called that?
Party and Bullcrap?
Yeah, because that's not how the song goes.
That's not
Not at all.
right. It's flips.
Yeah.
And
You bull crap and then party.
And party and bull. Yep.
How about that?
It's ridiculous.
Flipped around. Love that song.
That's it. We're going to what did I say? God, my brain is everywhere today. I forget where Clay worked. Now
all
I'm
right.
forgetting the name of the next show.
You've
which
been
is
a terror
Box
since your
Lunch.
public school
Lunch.
era.
You have.
That's
Bathroom passes, cutting classes, squeezing butts.
true. My favorite part were when both presidential
Squeezing
candidates discussed their golf handicap. That was my personal favorite. But that's it.
Smoking
We're-
blunts was a daily routine
we're-
since 13.
We're going on to Box Lunch. We will do a Quiplash Tournament of Champions. We'll see you guys there.